Were cold last night in their first game without Kevin Durant. It'd been 146 games since the Warriors dropped back-to-back regular season games until last night. Steph Curry, 2 for 11 from three-point range, and Klay Thompson also ice cold, 1 for 11 from three-point range. Now, before the loss Thursday night, here's what Charles Barkley had to say about the Warriors' chances without KD.
Without Kevin Durant, they got zero chance of winning the championship. Actually, with the addition the Cavaliers have made, they probably are the leader in the clubhouse. But without Kevin Durant, they got no chance of winning the championship.
Zero?
Zero. Well, let me
tell you say zero.
Because they're not going to beat the Cavaliers without Kevin Durant. They're not going to beat. I wasn't even finished. If they don't have Kevin Durant, I don't even think they get out of the West.
Barkley's putting a fork in them. He says zero chance. Max Kellerman, how concerned should Golden State be after last night?
Well, if they don't have Durant, Charles Barkley's absolutely right. I've been saying it. Many people have been saying it. They have zero chance to win the finals without KD, of course. And they may not get out of the West without KD. All those things are true. Let's talk about the concern right now, putting KD aside for a second, assuming, let's say, he'll be back for the playoffs, but not the regular season. I'm not too concerned about the Warriors. What I saw last night and the day before, and even a little bit right before the KD injury, it's been a rare concurrent shooting slump from Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. We really haven't seen that in the last couple of years, where both of them go cold over a several-game stretch. But if you look at last night against a hot Chicago team, Warriors on the road, they played really good team defense. And even Jimmy Butler on national TV after the game, his analysis was they missed shots. So they're still creating matchup nightmares everywhere. They're still playing very well. They're coached up well. I know Kerr complained after the game. It's not just missing shots. It's all these other things. Nobody's perfect. But I saw a crisp, really good basketball team simply miss shots. Then the question is why? Are they just going cold? Well, probably, but KD takes a lot of shots away from Steph and Klay. Steph averages 17 shots and change a game when KD is in the lineup, and Klay Thompson a little bit over 17 shots a game, both in that range. And all of a sudden, since KD went down, Steph is shooting 23 and change a game, and Klay is shooting over 20 times a game. So usually when that happens, it's not that they're streaky shooters, they're consistent shooters. Usually when that happens, the more touches you get, the better shooter you become. So if anything, not only do I expect them to emerge from this shooting slump and start to wreck teams again, I expect their shooting to, if anything, get better the more touches they see. Of course, with no KD, they're not as good as they were. They would not beat the Cavs. They might be trouble in the playoffs if they don't have them. But in terms of what we've seen last night and even against Washington, I'm not that concerned.
Well, first of all, first things first. I appreciate the brilliance of Charles Barkley. Clearly, he watches First Take and he listens to his boy. Because he echoed basically what I said, and it just shows why he's such a brilliant commentator. He listens to his boy. The fact is the Cleveland Cavaliers are definitely the prohibitive favorites because of the acquisitions of Darren Williams with Andrew Bogut, and of course you got Derek Williams earlier than that. But to get directly with Golden State, I'm not concerned about their shooting at all because shooters shoot, and sometimes you don't miss it. Lord knows I would know the video from a few weeks ago show it. You wake up some days and there's just nothing there. It absolutely, positively happens. Yes, I'm comparing myself to Steph Curry. Obviously, I'm joking. The point that I'm trying to make to you is very, very simple. They will get out of their shooting slump. They will get out of their doldrums. They will find a way, Steve Kerr and his staff will find a way to have this offense relatively potent. But the reason why Charles Barkley, echoing my words, are so profound is because, yes, it's not just that Kevin Durant went down. It's also that Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut are gone. If Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut were on the squad, then nothing about your nucleus or your chemistry is disrupted. Even with Kevin Durant going down, you could just revert back to what we've been seeing from the Golden State Warriors over the past 2 years. But because Bogut is gone, because Harrison Barnes is gone, and Kevin Durant replaced them, and now he's out, now you're in a situation where if you're Klay and Steph and Draymond, it's foreign territory because you haven't had to play with your depth being compromised so glaringly. And as a result, now you really, really feel, as Max, you pointed out, like you have to do so much more. And that's where it becomes problematic because you have to do some more. Remember, they did a lot, but they didn't necessarily have to over the last 2 years. They flowed when they flowed, but they also had depth. Now this year, you didn't have it, but you sacrificed it for a big four, and along with Andre Iguodala. Now, without Kevin Durant and those other two aforementioned, you've got some trouble. I think even with Kevin Durant, Cleveland is the favorite. But without Kevin Durant, I think there's a legitimate argument that the Golden State Warriors may not even get out of the West.
Look, the analysis that when you add Durant to and take away Bogut and Harrison Barnes from a 73-win team, which there's no chance you're going to win 74 games, the next year. It's just so highly unlikely because you had to get a little lucky in addition to being so excellent.
They weren't trying to win 74.
Of course, it was a mistake to go after the 72 record even last year, I believe, still. I think it's one of the reasons Steph may have been hurt. But that is an argument, as you would say, Stephen A., for another day. Many people have had the analysis that, hey, do you add Durant to that and take away and mess with that chemistry? And I think health. And I think that that's a legitimate question. On the other hand, who among us who brings up that question wouldn't have made the move for Kevin Durant? In other words, it's one thing for everyone to say, and many people have, hey, I don't know if you want to mess with that, even to add Durant. Maybe you get worse in certain areas. It's not as good. You're disrupting chemistry. But who would actually have the courage of their convictions and pass on Durant? I offer nobody. Nobody makes, passes on that move. So that was going to happen. I also offer that even though those factors are in play, there's no way you can tell me that taking away Bogut and Barnes and adding Durant is a bad thing. Of course it makes you better, provided he's on the floor. And while I'm not, like you, Stephen A., I'm not concerned about their shooting. Clay and Steph are not streaky shooters. They're all-time great shooters, period. They're not volume shooters who need all those touches to stay hot, though it probably helps to get extra touches if you want to stay hot. So, all those things are true about the Golden State Warriors. And in Durant's case, of course, missing him makes you worse. The big takeaway from me is I have to admit, before the last couple games, over the last couple years, it was hard for me to imagine Golden State being so cold over, let's say, a best-of-7 stretch that they could actually lose a best-of-7 series because they got cold. All of a sudden, that question is entering my mind. Not worried about the shooting, even without Durant. But I have to admit, the specter of them getting cold long enough to lose a series they should win has now crept into my thoughts.
Yeah, I ain't worried about that. Shooters shoot, and they're going to make shots come postseason time. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about their depth and whether or not they've got the muscle to deal with what's going to get thrown in their direction, particularly without the services of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's there, they're going to the finals, but they could still lose. Without Kevin Durant, I'm not sure they're going to even make it to the finals.
Yeah, that's right. They can get bumped off by San Antonio, for example, if they don't have Durant. That's entirely possible. Houston, less likely, but also possible. It's possible. Houston's shooting so many threes there that Daryl Morey finally has, I don't know if it's the last laugh, but it's a laugh because it's a triumph of analytics. And but the Golden State Warriors, Stephen A., have a lot, as I said yesterday, of what the Spurs have going for them. But with better players when Durant's healthy. They're coached up exceptionally well, and they even showed it on the defensive end yesterday.
All I know is this season that was supposed to be a foregone conclusion is getting a lot more exciting, gentlemen. We want to hear from you guys at home now. So the Warriors' lead in the West slips to only a few games over those surging Spurs, but will San Antonio catch the Warriors for the top seed? Go on Twitter now and vote. We'll share those results a little later in the show. Colin Kaepernick will not protest during the national anthem next season, but someone here is calling Cap a sellout. Don't miss that discussion coming up.
If you lucky, first take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, got me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into First Take on a Feel Good Friday. And look who is here. Darren Woodson is in the building. The Super Bowl. Always a pleasure,
Right
Darren.
Hold on.
I already hear him.
Little bird.
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. What the hell is he doing here this early? Why is Darren Woodson, a Cowboy, starting off first take? Security, where's security? Where's security?
Hey, Max, I'm sitting in your seat too, Max.
Oh, Lord.
Appreciate you, Max.
See that?
Well,
listen, when the cat's away.
Going on?
Yeah. We know when the cat's away. How are you guys feeling this morning? You're already feisty, I can tell.
I was all right until I saw him, a Cowboy, starting off the show.
Haters.
I know Stephen A. and I are about to butt heads on a bunch of stuff, so I can't wait.
Okay, cool. Darren, do you want to start the show?
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll start it then, because Darren wants to. There is a youth movement in New York. The Jets add Brandon Marshall to the list of veteran players that will be released. First reported by Newsday, then confirmed by our Adam Schefter. So a source close to Marshall told Schefter that the Jets offered a contract extension with no pay cut, but they eventually decided to part ways and not to trade him. So Marshall joins Revis, Nick Mangold, and Nick Folk as offseason salary cap casualties for the Jets. The move can't become official until the new league business year, which starts March 9th, right around the corner at 4 p.m. Eastern. Hall of Famer Bill Polian with a hot take on gangrene.
Don't forget, next year in the draft is a good quarterback year. Shall we say that maybe they're reloading with the idea that this year may not be a terrific year record-wise.
Are they doing the Sixers thing and tanking, Bill?
Well, I don't want to say that. But we saw the Browns do it with no repercussions, by the way. So who knows? Maybe it's an objective. It's hard for me to believe in New York. And the moves they've made thus far have been justified without question.
And you believe the Browns tanked this year, then?
There's no question about it. They said it. They didn't care about the won-loss record. They said it, and there were no repercussions.
So the Jets are clearly getting younger and say $43.4 million against the cap. But Stephen A., are they making the right moves?
Well, listen, I think they're making the right moves in terms of Brandon Marshall because, again, if you don't have a quarterback, you got a problem. Ryan Fitzpatrick obviously had a very, very good year the year before last. This year, in part due to how the Jets handled things, particularly in training camp and what a holdout they allowed them to be and how they left so many things dangling, really disrupted their rhythm, their flow, their momentum. And as a result, that, as far as I'm concerned, that relatively sabotaged their season. Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in late in training camp. Ultimately, he takes a while to get going. You look at Eric Decker, he goes down. Matt Forte wasn't the running back that you wanted him to be. The offensive line wasn't what it used to be, particularly with the retirement of DeBrickashaw Ferguson. So you take all of those things into account. Remember, Nick Mangold is not going to be back now. But you got to take into account all of those things that were transpiring. So ultimately, it led to acrimony. Remember, your quarterback who was vying for the starting job got his jaw broken because he stupidly got in the face of a 250-pound linebacker he owed money to, if you can believe that. I'm talking about Geno Smith here, obviously. All of those things taken into consideration, they never really had a chance to have a successful season. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and then Darrelle Revis didn't want to be there any longer and played like it. As a result, they've let him go. Now they've let Brandon Marshall go. No doubt they'll probably let David Harris go. They'll probably try to trade Sheldon Richardson as well. You take all of those things into consideration. They clearly seem to be conceding next season. I can't believe I'm saying that in New York. I certainly don't support it, but I do like Bowles. I do like McCagnon. I know that they have some kind of a vision, and I know that they feel somewhat betrayed by the personnel they had in that locker room last year. So to return with all of those bodies intact, I'm not sure I would trust them any more than McCagnon or Bowles or Woody Johnson appears to be trusting them right now. And as a result, with Brandon Marshall, 32 years of age, coming off his worst season, only 59 receptions, targeted 128 times, and still putting up those paltry numbers, that wasn't about his talent because we all know he could play. It was about what he was playing with. He's never been in the playoffs before. He's 32 years of age. He's not going to be an asset to that locker room because he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuilding project. So I think it was the right decision to let him go.
Of course it was the right decision to let him go. And I do support it. Unlike you, Stephen A., the Jets, I don't care, the New York, wherever they're from, as Bill Polian said, Cleveland.